Hi, Editing Jack here. I fully botched the recording for the first half of this final episode of our first campaign for the Fiction Games stream. Thank you for tuning in anyways. For the first half, you will see a rotating graphic that represents the cosmology of the eight worlds. And then for the second half, you'll see our faces again. The audio is still intact, which means the story is still intact, so stay tuned, and thank you for coming. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fiction Game. It's the finale of our very first campaign here. As always, I'm your host, Jack. With me today are Sam, Miles, and Hayden.
Infographic.
Yeah, great gestures, everyone. Yeah, we got this. We got this nice little rotating image. These are the eight worlds, and of course, in the center is the mortal plane. Speaking of the mortal plane, we'll do a zoom in mortal plane on the world known as Solagea. No one really talks about the names of the planets. Pretty much only Marigold, the mage, the party mage, would know that it's called Solagea or Solagea. And we return to our party, or rather half of our party, as at the end of the last episode we discovered that our party had been split, fractured by an injury that Alberth received during a fight with a number of hunter casters and a demon, whom Alberth had learned some secrets about. And Alberth had been thrown into the forest, suffered a near fatal blow that has left him comatose. Now his predator druid friend Keith, as played by Miles, and their two companions, Abelka Ashad, an other worlder from the world of Lycia. You'll see Lycia sweep by on this little infographic today. And Keith's new would-be apprentice, Amala. A very enthusiastic tag along to our little party. We'll return to everyone else's perspective in a minute, but first we ought to discuss what's happening in the mind of Alberth. A caster's dreams are often more significant than the ramblings of an idle mind. Many meet their patrons in dreams, make deals, cast spells. A rare few make choices in their dreams that cause them never to wake. Alberth dreams today of flowers and a kindly goat and an ugly moth. He dreams of a green place and finds that it is dreaming of him too. Alberth dreams of a choice, one whose consequences and cost are unknown to him. The choice is this: which of his druid powers will Alberth use to reach back to the goat and the moth and the faraway green place? A reminder, Alberth's powers, and you don't know what the context is. Alberth doesn't fully know the consequences of which power he uses here, or how much of this dream world is real and how much is conjured by a dying mind. But your powers are the power of symbiosis, the power of adrenaline, gifted to all druids, the power of ecdysis, or the power of mimesis. Which of these powers do you use to reach back to the strange green place that you see only in dreams and visions?
Mimesis. Let's give that a shot and see.
You use mimesis on this green and wild world, and you feel yourself emulating its wildness. What happens in the mortal plane as we zoom back out and see Keith, his companion Amala, and they're just very tall companion, Abulka Ashad, with the halo around his head. Um, they are gathered around Alberth, and Alberth, who had been breathing shallowly, now breathes an almost deliberate breath, deliberate enough that you think for a moment that he might wake. He's still under. But Keith senses something from him, something that he only senses in other druids. A wild nature. You're not sure what it means, or what it could entail for Albert's future. Uh, he is still comatose. Abulkashad looks over him, checks some vitals, and nods. He looks at Keith, and he says, "So Keith, I'm as you know, it's been a day or two since Alberth received this injury. There are a number of things that could be happening to him, and unfortunately for us and for Alberth, they're pretty much all internal things. They're not really things that we can fix or patch up from out here. But there are some things that might help. That stirring that he had, that tells me that maybe he's close enough to consciousness that something like Fireheart powder could bring him back. So, do you
And
think
is that just
you could
something we
run
just like have?
into? It's something we don't have it. Marigold had some. I should have asked him for it before we split up. I didn't realize that. Look, it doesn't matter. The guy I got that from, the alchemist, he's just inside of Ernhold. I know we're not really well liked in this part of town anymore. Do you think you could run to the alchemist and if you could get that Fireheart powder, that might wake him up. But if you have a better idea, I leave it up to your discretion.
I can make it work.
Yeah, Keith has several options here. Um, the first is if you go to the alchemist, you can get that Fireheart powder. You can get anything else that the alchemist thinks might help him if you tell the alchemist what happened. The great the great news is you didn't go with that negotiation party to speak with the Baron. I'm sorry, I think I called him the Duke a couple sentences ago. He is not a Duke. So the Baron hasn't seen you. So there's a chance that just no one would recognize you. You could stroll right in here and ask an alchemist for supplies. You just wouldn't get in trouble for it. And as a bonus on top of that, the alchemist had given Abulkashad that oil to be used to take care of your Tiefstahl weapons. You've thought since Abel came back that you should talk to this alchemist and see how much he knows about the dwarves. I don't know how primary or secondary that is in your like hierarchy of needs right now. I don't know how important that is, or if you're like, no, it's Alberth only, or if you're like, maybe we can get some cheeky dwarf info in there if I'm going anyways. A second option is if you don't want to leave Abulkashad alone. He is not a competent fighter. Alberth is unconscious, and so you wouldn't be able to defend them while you're gone, so you would just be hoping that no one finds them. Your second option is to just stay with them, or even try and bring everyone into town. Abulkashad was also not with the negotiation party, so that might be fine. You don't think anyone mentioned that there's like an angel in your party, so unless the hunter casters have already reported back to the Baron, or the Baron's men that were sent with the hunter casters had reported back to the Baron, unless any of that happened, they might not know that just an angel is traveling with this party that the Baron is very upset with.
Am I
Your
able
third
to?
option. Oh yes, yeah.
Go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Your third option is to there were the dwarven ruins that you were fighting at. There are a number of things that might help you there. First of all, because it's a whole settlement. The fact that it's above ground almost certainly means that it's been looted, at least on the surface level, but there might be more things of use that you could find. You don't know that dwarven healing really applies to people. You know a great deal about their smithing techniques, as you were taught by an ancient master who learned it from the dwarves himself, because their like mass death was not too long ago. But Yeah, so there may be useful items in the dwarven fortress, but there also, or then there also may be those ochre warriors who had helped you. You saw that most of them, yeah, they left off chasing after the demon, but if they are still in that area, there's a good chance that one of them might still be there and would be willing to assist you in any way he can to help Alberth. So among those options, staying to help, going and speaking with the alchemist for fireheart powder and maybe some dwarf stuff, going to the dwarven ruins for assistance and materials and maybe some dwarf stuff, or maybe even going to both the alchemist and the the ruins. What are you thinking among those options?
I think going it with Ablikar Ashad, if I pronounce it right. I think going with him was probably going to be a better idea. What, like, realistically, what do I suspect the odds are that I'm both going to be able to get back before the report, and also that they don't have informants that have seen me? I'm by no means I haven't been stealthy per se at all in this playthrough. I doubt that there's any way that they haven't heard of me yet. I guess I'm asking, what's the realistic chance that that's really an option? Like, what do I suspect that that's an option?
You think that you wouldn't be that recognizable via secondhand reports, and so unless you run into specifically one of the 8 baronial guardsmen who actually went with the hunter casters, unless you run into one of them, it's unlikely that you'll be recognized. Ablikar Shad carries a much higher risk. So if he comes with you, you'll almost certainly be recognized. If he doesn't, you'll probably be fine.
Either way, this fireheart powder...
Going to the alchemist would require going straight into the heart of Earnhold. People are going to see you, and if they can recognize you, they will. So Ablikar Shad, that's a bad choice for him. But if you go to the Dwarven Ruins, it's pretty out there. It's up in the North Hills. It's a couple hours walk, and none of it is densely populated. So if you stuck to the same routes that you took to get back here to try and meet up with the caravan in the first place, you may still be able to, or you may not be seen at all and won't have to worry about anyone who recognizes Ablikar Shad or like takes a good look at Alberth for whatever reason.
All right, I decide that I like my own safety isn't as much of a concern as the safety and well-being of somebody else. I think that I think Keith is going to choose to go into town without Ablikar Shad.
Okay, right on. You you travel sorry, you said into town to talk to the alchemist?
Exactly.
Right on. You travel, roll me a quick luck check. The odds are heavily stacked in your favor here, so just don't roll catastrophically low. Quick stealth check to see if anyone recognizes you.
I did it wrong, hold on.
No worries.
14.
Yeah. Fantastic. No one bats an eye as you walk into this town. Or not a town, it's the capital of a barony. It's just the capital of the shittiest barony in the kingdom. You walk into town and find this alchemist. It's a hunched older man who's carrying around like it's like a monocle, but instead of having it in like a pocket to pull out whenever he needs it, it's on like a rusty swivel, so it's just off to the side until he like looks down at something, clacks it over, and then when you walk up, he kind of unswivels it and it bounces back, and he has to like unswivel it a second time. He says, "Hello, young man. How can I help you?"
I'm gonna ask for the. It was called Bernhardt, correct? If I remember right, Fireheart powder. I'm just gonna mention that it's for. I guess I'm gonna leave that part ambiguous. I'm just gonna mention that I need it and I'm willing to pay for it.
Oh, a bit of the uppers. I see you. I understand. Let me see. Tall man came through, emptied it all out earlier. I think, and he starts opening kind of mismatched drawers and cupboards and cabinets. Nothing here matches. It seems like one cupboard or countertop was like built in at a time as he ran out of space, and now there's not a lot of space to just be, but there's a lot of miscellaneous drawers that he looks through. And as he does, he kind of makes casual conversation. He says, "So, got a deadline coming up? Got a lot of wood to chop? What's the deal? I mean, you don't have to tell me if you don't want. Trying to kick something? I hear it's good for that." And he's looking through stuff. He says, "If I can't find it, I can make it for you in maybe a fortnight. You can come back and I'll have worked through it." And he kind of
Excellent.
apparently exhausts his ideas, exhausts his options, and just shrugs. He's like, "Sorry, I don't seem to have any here. I can make you some. It'll only take a while. You in town? How long are you in town? Do you live here? It's a big enough place. We might not have met. Hi, it's nice to meet you." And he just kind of continues this stream of consciousness unceasing.
I'm going to give him, like, I'm just going to string along this conversation with, "Yep, oh, yeah, absolutely." Just like the most generic, uninformative answers that would prompt a response with more questions, just to keep him going as he gets me the Fireheart powder.
Right on. Yeah, he does run out of places to look, and he says, "Yeah, so I'm not going to be able to. I don't have any on me. I have some alternatives. It doesn't do everything that Fireheart powder does. What are you looking to do? What are you looking to get done? How are you looking to feel?"
Trying to get over something myself. Got a sickness of some sort, particularly an injury I'd care not to go into if that's all right with you. Do you know where I could get some, or do you have something that is an incredibly close replacement? I'm fairly new at this sort of thing.
You have an injury and you want to be more awake for it? I have the sort of poppy, like distilled poppy. So I don't understand why this is your goal. I don't think you're here for what you think you're here for. You don't understand what this is going to do to you, son. It's just, this is bad news if you're in pain. This makes the pain much clearer and easier to perceive. Unless you're speaking euphemistically and the disease is one of the mind or one of the liver. If you are you hungover? Is that the issue?
I didn't want to. Yes, I'm hungover.
Right. Well, I can make you something for that. It won't be Fireheart powder, but hey, I can whip you something up and without naming like what he's doing, he puts some stuff in some alembics, sparks up a flame that's way too big to be. Seems like maybe
Comically
maybe
large.
this doesn't need to happen, but it starts boiling in like 30 seconds, and he's just like sparking these fires, and soon the place is hot as a forge. I mean, you've been in smithies before where with the kind of heat needed to melt steel, and there is. You haven't really done a lot of alchemy, but you can't imagine there's any reason to be running this hot other than maybe this is just the pace this guy's mind works at, and he wants to get the work done at that pace too. But he pulls out like a handful of like scraps of paper and seems to be looking through like recipes. But at the same time, he like folds some and like throws them away and seems to be like, "I know what I'm doing better than my notes from when I did this previously." And is just throwing multicolored powders in here. At one point, he takes like a leaf and crushes it up, doesn't put it in alembic, just kind of snorts it out of one out of one thumb, and like takes a couple little steps like a dog that's really excited. Eventually, he pours something that you feel incredibly unsafe drinking into into kind of a flask lined with leather, like kind of like the sleeve of a coffee cup because it's so hot. He's just pouring it right out of the distillation equipment. He pours it in. It is steaming. There's red steam wafting off of this thing like it just came off the stove. And he names a price. It's granted, it's a pretty good price. You're not sure if this is what you want. Apparently it's a hangover cure. Maybe a coma's just an advanced hangover. You don't have a medical degree. No one does. It's the Dark Ages.
I'm gonna. I assume I've got the money for it. I've
You
never really
have the
talked
money.
about money.
Yeah, if you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pay it in and be on my way, I suppose.
Right on. And he kind of taps his nose twice, and you're not sure if that means like snort it, or if he's like, I like snorting things, or if he's like, or if it's like when you get something right in charades, where he's like, yeah, you got it, you did it, and then he just goes about his merry. He keeps talking if you stay, but it no longer seems to be aimed at you. He's just like speaking.
Can I clarify with him and be like, hey, I was out drinking, as I've told you. I do have a buddy who is currently passed out. I was going to share this with. Is this something that will also work for that?
That's a great improvised line, Miles. I think if we were doing like inspiration points or luck points for this campaign, I'd be like, take an inspiration point, bud. You get to re-roll a die later. But we don't do enough rolls for that. You'd just be able to re-roll every roll because you guys make too many good in-character decisions. We'll do it in a future campaign. But no, he thinks about it for a second and he says, see, they're unconscious. Nope, don't think that would work at all. You want smelling salts? We have smelling salts.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know. Okay, player to DM here. I didn't think smelling salts existed in the Dark Ages, but I guess so.
Ooh, I don't know either. Let me Google smelling salts, and we'll learn something real quick.
It's
Either
just
way,
like
this isn't actually the European Dark Ages.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he has some ammonium carbonate.
Right on. Toss him money. And I'm gonna like
17.
cheer this like this is the best drink I've ever received, as well as smelling salts.
Alchemists used it in the 13th century, which is right at the end of what I consider the European Dark Ages, which I think is about 500 to 1500, following the fall of Rome. But let's not go any deeper into that. What do? You buy the smelling salts and get out of there?
Absolutely.
Sweet. Do you ask him any questions about dwarves while he's ranting?
This is pretty close to the Dwarven encampment, yeah?
Yeah, it's a couple hours out.
I'm going to mention that I knew somebody that had seen it. I was wondering if you could point me in the right direction.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
for
want to
sure.
tell.
It's in the North
I'm like trying to
Hills.
avoid. Sorry, I'm trying to avoid telling him that I've been there or that I know anybody that's like currently there. But just that I've heard it and in passing would like to know information on it.
Yeah, he says, it's a couple hours north in the North Hills. There's a Chimera wandering around there. It's been killing a lot of townsfolk. Be very careful about that. No, it's the ruins of an old dwarven settlement. Kind of a somber visit, really. If you're just on your way through, if you're looking for like a pleasure tour, it's kind of a bummer to check out. You know, they were killed recently. I mean, everyone knows that. There's this sort of recent history that I'm talking about. Listen to me ramble. But anyways, I'm going to keep rambling. The dwarves were killed very recently, as I said, so it's very sad. All that remains really is sort of half-breeds, and I met a fellow who said he was part dwarf but was very normal size. Didn't make any sense until he explained to me that he was actually half giant as well. Funny world. Anyways,
I leave.
right on. Yeah, somewhere in the world there is or was a half dwarf, half giant who was alive at the same time as this crazy old alchemist was alive. He's more than 40, so he was just alive before the death of the last dwarf, as it's commonly understood, although Keith has his suspicions otherwise, of course.
Yeah, I know better. I'm learned.
But yeah, you get out of there with the smelling salts and the homebrewed concoction that smells like cinnamon. Right on.
I'm going to keep it and throw it at somebody later.
Right on. Sweet. Yeah. You come out of the door and Amala's just right there and is like waiting for you. You consider chastising her for a moment because it probably would have been better if she stayed with the group, but then you're also not really sure how much you trust this person to stay with your comatose friend and your friend who's no good in combat, so maybe it's better that she's with you. Unclear. But she just like seems to be waiting for you to like explain what happened in there or like do something else cool. She's just like looking up at you patiently.
Here, I got you something to drink.
Mom.
I would ask how long they were
you.
there, and so just to clarify, they're like trying to be druid, heard about me, and want to become druid through me.
Yeah, so she's a predator druid. She heard that you wanted to hunt down dwarves and thought that's wild. This dude must be so druid. And then she followed you. She found you because predator druids are so good at the hunt and stalking their prey. Not really prey, but she's great at tracking, and she tracked you down. She found you and she wants to be your apprentice. She's very enthusiastic.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'll warn them to take a sip, and then we'll walk back to the caravan.
Right on. She ignores your advice, downs the whole thing, and then begins babbling about her journey as a predator druid.
Should I kill
you learn a great deal about this young woman's tenacity growing up on the streets of the capital. Not the capital here, but the capital of nearby. Not Venel. It was the other one, Vuitton. But she traveled a long way, not really with a goal at first, and then eventually found you. It sounds like she became a druid around the same time you did, and it brings your thoughts once again to the trial of El-Katen, now so long ago. But do you head straight back to Abelkashad and Alberth, or do you go to the Dwarven Ruins as well?
Oh, if I think I've got time, I would love to go to the Dwarven Ruins as well. I'll take her with me as well. I don't want to send her back to the caravan yet. But if we're able to like pass by, that'd be sick to just throw it off and then go check it out. But if I could, I would definitely love to go check out the ruins.
Sweet, yeah. If anyone can, you can. You are exceptionally fast, and so as soon as you get sort of out of visual range of the barren capital of Ernhold, you break into a sprint through the woods, and Amala, questionless, breaks into stride alongside you. Not really like close traveling as a pack. You kind of take different paths, but you'll occasionally glance over and see her darting through the woods as well.
Got it.
You make exceptionally good time and get to that escarpment, looking over these ruins. It's much faster for you both to run here than it was for your large party to walk here originally. But you are both pretty winded by the time you get there. Amala goes, "Hey, by the way, what was that? Was that sort of draft you gave me earlier? It did not taste very good."
I was trying to get some supplies, had a miscommunication, and ended up with a pick-me-up.
She kind of like looks down at her hands and like shakes a little bit. She goes, Did the alchemist say what it was? What did he give me? What is it for? Why did he give me this? I didn't even question it. I kind of just drank it. Is it? I thought potions were supposed to make it. I've never had a potion before. They seem expensive.
I'm gonna like show some empathy here and be like, yeah, I'm genuinely sorry about that. By the way, it's supposed to just be hangover cure, roughly. How was it? Do you feel less hungover?
No, maybe you're supposed to be hungover when you drink it. Maybe I'm hung under now. How do I get back to? How do I get back to a normal amount of hunger? Hanged, not hung. It doesn't really apply to this context. Help me! What did you do to me? She's shaking, and her eyes go wild. And she realizes, I don't have my powers. You made me not a druid anymore. I have to go. And she just runs into the woods.
Okay. I'm gonna quickly sprint after. Can I cast Predator on myself? Can I cast like adrenaline on myself? Is what I meant.
Oh, yeah, but you might accidentally like kill her.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll just chase him down, grab him, send him back to the caravan to go hang out with Abaka Shad.
Sweet. She actually, yeah, she cannot outrun you. It seems that she's actually right, that like her druid powers don't seem to be applying anymore, and she's like shaking as you send her into the woods, and she's like, sure, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'm sure I won't die. And then just like looks at her hands as she wanders off into the woods. You're not sure what else you can do to help her. But if she wants to get back to the caravan before you
definitely
do,
giving her
you're
the
going to be
salts,
running. So, okay, yeah, sweet. She says, yeah. This is, to be clear, this one's not for me. This is the one that you got for Alberth that we're bringing back to. Right?
Exactly. And definitely don't worry about the whole like druid powers thing. We'll definitely make sure you're taken care of.
Right, it's temporary though, right? You've had this happen
Absolutely.
before, right?
For sure. Yeah, nothing to worry about. Happens all the time.
Okay, this is part of the training. You're doing that thing where you pretend something's not part of the training and you take away a sense, and then I have to live without that sense, because the best druids are good druids without having druid powers. I'm on to you. You're teaching
Well, it wouldn't
me.
work as well
I
if I
appreciate
told
you
you
taking
straight
me
out.
on as my apprentice. Spirits raised, she marches into the woods like, I'm a good druid, even as a normal person. She strolls confidently in the general direction of Alberth, and you are left on your own to peruse this place. There's a set of tracks. If you're trying to track down the ochre-dressed warriors that you had seen earlier, you could probably track their steps from here. You're not sure how close or far they would be, so that might be not be your best course of action. But either way, the contents of this place are yours to peruse. You begin working through them. Your suspicions are confirmed. This place has already been ransacked on the surface level, and very few that's like precious or directly salvageable remains. But in a sack, in a crate, you find some semi-precious stones, not the kind that are like worth their weight, like expensive rare metals or anything like that, but something that you could get some money for. Especially if you are talented at kind of gem cutting or carving around geodes and that kind of thing, which is something that Keith has some experience in, because it's kind of an adjacent field of study or field of expertise to smithing. You also find an old felling axe that was behind a panel that kind of looked like a crate that someone had opened, but when you slide the panel to the side, you find this axe. It is not made of any like ancient cool metal, but it does appear to be of dwarven make. So it's just like a nice axe for felling trees. And lastly, you find something that this place has in abundance, but no one seems to have wanted to take, or maybe people took some, but there's plenty left. What you find is a great abundance of maps. Most of them are copies of the same 2 or 3 maps, but they seem to mark out other dwarven settlements. They seem to be trading maps, so that this settlement could speak with other settlements. Not something of great interest to just your average peasant who finds this place and wants to make a quick buck looking through what they left behind, but of great interest to someone who wants to find more of these places. That's the good news. But the bad news is that the landmarks are not anything that you understand, or anything that you recognize. In fact, you'd be willing to bet that these landmarks are nowhere in the vicinity of the Kingdom of Telmeri, which is the kingdom that you're currently in. You could probably bring it to someone more traveled, more world-wise, more book-smart, and they might be able to tell you. But you grab one of each map that you can find any copies of, and it'll probably be useful information in the future. So that's all you find. A couple semi-precious stones that give you some money, a sweet axe, and a bunch of maps. Unfortunately, nothing that can directly help your boy Alberth. But am I safe in assuming that after finding these, you get back to Alberth and Ablakashad, or do you try and track down the Ochre Warriors to see if they're nearby and can lend assistance?
No, I'm going to go straight back, and I do want to verify. I'm missing a sword, if I remember it right, correct?
That's correct. The swordswoman who had fought you in the sky ran off with one of your two Tiefstahl blades.
I'm either gonna kill her or marry her. There's only two options here. So I'll switch out the other sword I'm missing with that like woods axe, and I'll head back.
Sweet. You also still don't know what kind of caster she is. No one can move like that just through basic human skill, but you guys still don't know what she's casting or if she's maybe not like a caster directly but is someone else who's influenced by magic in some way. But yeah, you on your way back, you're alone. You have a sword and an axe, and you're confident in your ability to protect yourself, so it's not something that threatens you, that grabs your attention. On top of which, Keith isn't always great at sensing the presence of things that could be a threat to him, but what you do sense nearby is powerful prey. It's a strange dichotomy to make, powerful prey, because it seems like if something's powerful enough, it's not prey anymore. But there are certain things that Keith is drawn to hunt. And so for the same reason that he and Alberth spent so long in pursuit of the armored stag in the Red Reach, you sense something nearby whose very nature draws you toward its ending. Powerful prey of the bog and mire nearby. The Bog and Mire is the world of the wild folk, your patron and Alberth's patron and the patron of all druids. They're all from the Bog and Mire.
All right, obviously I'm going to go check that out. I mean, how could I not?
Right on. Yeah. Reminding yourself that there is something to get back to, that you can't lose yourself in this hunt if it means not getting back to Alberth and Abelka shot in time. You put that thought out of your mind for a moment to see what this is. And soon you come to a small clearing full of poppies with two small sprouts coming out of the ground. I'm sorry, they might not have been poppies, they might have been orchids. But either way, there is a solitary figure sitting among them, weaving a daisy chain, like a literal daisy chain out of these flowers, like tying them together. She seems to be crafting something. This woman is like no woman you've seen before. She wears no clothes, but in a distinctly unsexy way. Too much of fantasy is like, and then there were naked women. There's a famous Terry Pratchett quote that's like, most books about witches will tell you that they work naked. This is because most books about witches are written by men. But that's a whole tangent. No, she's not wearing any clothes because she's an animal person. From the waist down, she is a goat. Which would make her a satyr if you remember your taxonomy of the Bog and Mire correctly. This is an otherworlder, and what's more, it's the most powerful prey Keith could hope to find. In fact, there are ways that druids reach ascensions and gain new wild boons. This would and Elkatan, your patron, has been is notoriously stingy with the wild boons that he gives out. Killing a powerful prey beast, a powerful prey wild folk of the Bog and Mire would certainly gain his attention. That's what you're thinking as you see this goat woman before you.
So it's pretty clear I should be trying to kill this person.
It's not that clear, actually. There is a clear impetus for you wanting to kill this otherworlder, but you also don't know exactly what it takes to kill an otherworlder. The first one that you've met that isn't like your patron, who you have not seen take physical form, was Abelka Ashad, and you met him with a spear through his vital organs. So you have no idea what it would take to kill this wild folk, what powers she has to fight back. and you definitely don't know how long it would take. And every minute you spend out here puts Alberth and Avaka Ashad in greater and greater danger. Here in the heart, or in the belly of the beast, as it were. So it's certainly a trade-off. It's not like a you should be doing this, unless you were to ask your druid patron. El-Katan would believe there is only one acceptable course of action.
All right.
Do it.
Done,
Kill my magic mommy.
The demon on my shoulder has spoken. I accept this challenge. Let's go kill some naked goat ladies.
All right. Roll me your first attack check as you leap down toward her.
Let's go.
Read it out, Miles. Read it out.
Natural 20, baby. Let's go.
You leaping down, sword in one hand, dwarven felling axe in the other, hack downwards, and it cracks through her clavicle as you make the first strike, and she gasps out a breath as you bring the axe cleanly across. She is dead. You decapitate this satyr. And your sense for wild things, for things of the bog and mire, senses ripples traveling out from this person and outwards. Not a severing of connections, but something is changing. And as you think of as her head topples to the ground, a truth about Keith is made evident once again. The nature of your powers, you are excellent at zeroing in on a single target and taking it out. What you are not excellent at is judging risk. It didn't occur to Keith that this this being was Alberth's patron. It would be a wild. It's a wild shot to, without realizing that Alberth had communicated with Gabby recently, which he didn't tell you. It wouldn't have even occurred to you that this was the exact wild folk that you would that is Alberth's patron. But it's worth noting, a wild folk dying in the mortal world does not, I repeat, not remove their connection to the mortal casters in this world. Alberth keeps his powers. What would have occurred to Keith if he had thought, or if he had known that this was Alberth's patron, was that she is a symbiote wild folk. A symbiote wild folk who never travels alone.
Shit.
A pale streak of white flutters out from the woods at a baffling pace. And Keith is lifted, not for the first time in the last 24 hours, into the air by the incredible strength of a pale, gaunt, sickly-looking man, just like Gabby, only part human. His head and his face are shaped like a human's, and from here kind of downwards in like a V is all human. But the shoulders and back, the legs and back are not human at all, but moth. Fluttering translucent wings lift you both into the sky, belying a strength that you would not attribute to someone or something that looks like this. And white as a sheet, this thing drags you up into the air and looks at you with eyes, a disturbing, chimeric pair of eyeballs, somewhere between the iris and pupil like human eye and the many fractaled insect eye. Some mottled combination of the two glares down at you and whispers something in a language that you don't understand, and yet your mind translates for you. Just like when you use animal empathy to sense or like to speak your language and yet have an animal understand you. This thing speaks the secret and ancient language of the bog and mire, and yet you understand as it speaks to you like you speak to a beast. It says a great many words that are translated to a great few words to your mind. It says, your promised death I bring to you far more quickly. And then it like falls into a dive, and it looks like it's going to slam you down, but it pulls up at the last second and just throws you, and you slide along the wet grass and come to a stop maybe 100 feet later. It seemed like he was going to kill you, but he is now fluttering back to the shadows of the forest, steam coming off of him like he's being burnt by his presence in the light. You are unclear what he meant, but when you think about the phrase promised death, your diagnosis occurs to you. Keith has been Keith, of course, suffers from the skulking end, and it occurs to you that this creature, who seemed furious with you and yet chose not to maim or kill you, might have the power to quicken that death. A terrifying thought, and more terrifying, one that you cannot confirm. After a couple minutes, it becomes evident that this thing isn't coming back for you. You're just free to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna count my lucky stars. I'm gonna get the heck out of there. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? I brushed death, and perhaps it's gonna come far sooner than I would have anticipated. And you know what? Fair trade.
Right on. So you get back to Alberth and Keith. Alberth and Abelkashad. All right, sweet. You run even faster on the way back, and you are red-faced and winded and exhausted by the time you get back to your friends, who are, thankfully, still intact. Your apprentice is with them, looking kind of pale. There is a stench from not too far away. You're pretty sure she vomited a bunch. But you get back, and she stands up straight, and she's like, "You were right. I'm fine now. I have my powers back." Ugh. Why did you do that?
I'm going to ignore them for now. I'm going to go straight over to Abluka Ashad, and I'm going to ask you a couple of key questions about Mothman.
Can I tell you guys maybe the dumbest thing that I've done for this entire stream? Apparently the capture has been broken, and it's been capturing the OBS window this whole time. Nothing with sensitive information, it just hasn't been our faces.
Nice.
That's so dumb. We should have just done a podcast. Honestly.
We basically did today.
Splash. All right, we're going to stop the stream and come back in 5-10 minutes. We're back, but this time there's us, but visually. You can see us, and we look great. I'll edit something together. No one's watching live anyways. Congratulations, YouTube audience, on receiving this unfiltered, continuous, that's what I mean. Receiving this continuously. Anyways, I believe that Keith was just arriving back at Abelkashad and Alberth. Keith, you give the smelling salts to Abelkashad, and he attempts to use them to wake Alberth up. Alberth once again fails to stir from his coma, and Abelkashad kind of grimaces, and he says, "Okay, I'm gonna get ready to move him. I think we're not going to be able to get help for him here. But there is the Grand Chirurgeons Guild at the capital. If he's stable enough to transport, I'll carry him like a little backpack, and we'll get him to the capital, and someone will take care of him there. I think that's his best option. Are you comfortable with that? Are you ready to press on to the capital? It is your quest anyways, right?
If this is our option, then I don't have much room to contradict this. So let's do it.
He nods and yeah, ties up, like gets some canvas kind of cloth around Alberth, puts him in a backpack that's kind of like a Death Stranding when you're carrying a corpse to the incinerator, but then puts like the whole bag, like just a big travel sack around him, so it doesn't look like he's just carrying a corpse. It looks like he's carrying just a very stacked backpack, just a very tall man carrying one of those ridiculous like backpacking backpacks that has like all the gear you need to climb 10,000 feet and cook a feast once you're there. Uh, yeah, it looks like that. You guys go to a little town on the outskirts of northern Earnhold to gather supplies for your journey. And when you do, you are approaching just like a shop that like half in, half like they sell traveling victuals, because it's just a trade hub, but not really somewhere that people go to actually do the trading. They just pass through there on their way to trade somewhere important. So most of what they sell is road goods, just non-perishable foods and that kind of thing. You guys get ready to step in, but there's quite a hubbub down the street. And Abelka Ashad says, I probably shouldn't be noticed. So he kind of ducks into an alleyway and tells you to grab him if necessary. There's a man being walked in shackles by two guards down the flagstone streets. It is, of course, your good friend Marigold McCarlin.
Oh no!
Now, Marigold, Sam, It's a unique dilemma with player agency, because you choose everything you do, so it's a little weird and maybe a little mean for me to be like, and you're in this bad situation. So to give you a little agency over the situation, you don't get to choose whether you're here, but you do get to choose why you're here. A, did Vizier Kama want to split up the party to distract the hunter casters, and you were unfortunate enough to run into a group of guards that had your description? B, were you trying to stock up on alcohol for the trip, and you were caught by the Baron's men, but the rest of your party wasn't with you? Or C, you were frightened by how little you could do in the last combat, and you were actually returning to Earnhold to take Sarathi, the swordswoman, up on her offer to train you. To be clear, I don't mean the swordswoman like one of the hunter casters. I mean the woman that had confronted the big group and slapped Marigold when you were traveling through Earnhold earlier.
So if I do see, like, I abandoned the rest of the group just to go train, like, what's the...
No, just told him you would meet him later. Or, like, meet him at the capital. Once you took care of the hunter casters, you weren't really all necessary anymore, and you were drawing a lot of attention by traveling in a big group. So either way, you're still part of the quest and will receive your payment once you get to the capital.
I guess getting alcohol is probably more in character, so that's probably what I was doing. That's
right on. Yep. Unfortunately, they were not able to double back around and save you, and the mission was too important. They left with the Queen in tow. Let's see. The next choice to be made, how does Keith help Marigold break free? I guess you also have the option to just not help him. Seems cruel to me. But
yeah, that's definitely not happening. I'm helping my boy.
Right, good. So you have a couple options. You could attack the guards, of course. Antagonizing a group of armed guards in like the middle of this town where you're trying to buy very necessary provisions isn't always a good idea. But just so you have a good idea for the difficulty level, Keith, the very stacked predator druid, fighting these very normal probably universally non-magical guards is a little bit like fighting guards in the open in Assassin's Creed 1 or 2, where it's like technically a risk, but they just have no chance against you as long as you press X at the right times. That's the level of difficulty we're talking about here. Now, the level of difficulty living with yourself after you murder a bunch of people varies too much from person to person for me to tell you how hard that's gonna be.
I also did just kill basically a god, right?
You killed her incarnation in this world, just like Abaka Ashad is 10 rings in his home and is just like a dude while he's here. She was just a dude while she was here, and she is something else somewhere else.
How much money do I got?
You've got bribe money. You've got the semi-precious stones from the Dwarf Fortress. So I'm gonna say you have bribe money if that's your approach here.
I'm going to kind of walk up, get their attention, and kind of like usher one of them over. I'm going to try and either like walk up to the group. Are they just like in the open? Like, is there a way I can get them to a spot where the four of us can reasonably have some sort of privacy?
Yeah, roll me a persuasion check. Just a D20 and subtract 4 from.
All right, well, 18 minus 4, 14.
Yeah, it's a strange request to be like, hey, you, someone who has a prisoner in tow, come speak with me in private. But it's a small enough town. They seem unconcerned. They're not really threatened by this lootiness that they grabbed, and so one of them goes like, yeah, I got this, and the other one like steps to the side with you like, yeah, what's up? Is there a problem, sir?
Okay, real quick, player to DM. I know the person who's in charge of the town, right? I just met with them.
Person who's in charge of the town?
Yeah, like it was like the Baron of the town or whatever you were saying.
Oh yeah, so this is kind of a smaller town that's like on the outskirts. It's like a suburb, basically. It's like a medieval suburb. But yeah, you met the Baron. Oh wait, you didn't meet the Baron. Your friends met the Baron.
Yeah, he's the governor. I was gonna go name dropping, but I just realized that might be more suspicious than just basically bribing them. I'm gonna come up to them as they've come over. I'm gonna kind of explain like, hey, I'm sure he got into a little bit of trouble. Like he's, unfortunately for me, he's dating my sister. Is there any way that I could pay for this problem to go away?
I really like that, and I would once again give you an inspiration point if that was something that we were doing. Go ahead and make that roll. I'm going to say no minus on this one. That's a good lie.
Well, not a good roll, unfortunately.
He does not buy you, but as we've established earlier, the Baron has sort of established a precedent for corruption, and this guy doesn't bat an eye. He's like, oh, well, your story's a lie. You're lying to me about who he is. But that's not a lie. That's money. And so he takes the money, and he doesn't say a word to the other guy. He just gives him a half nod, which apparently is all that's needed to convey we're letting him go in exchange for money. Because the guy unclasps Marigold and just like kind of nods in thanks at you, and they just walk off.
Easier than I thought. All right, cool.
That's just turns out corruption is systemic, and it travels from the top down. So trickle down corruption.
I give Marigold like a happy nod, like, well, that problem's solved. Let's go.
The party is unsplit. You guys gather your provisions and get the heck out of this cursed barony. You are on the road for a great deal of time. You travel. It took you like 2 weeks to get from the Red Reach to here. It's going to take you another 2 weeks or so to reach the capital. You would expect it to be slowed down, but it turns out that the 8-foot-tall angel Abulka Ashad is not slowed down at all by having the, I think 5'4" was established, Alberth on his back. So you guys haul. You make good progress. And in fact, before too long, are able to purchase like a wagon, which is a little safer way to drive. What's up, Hayden?
Does Marigold still have any of that fire stuff that he would send my way?
He does have fireheart powder.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, awesome.
Abulka Shad attempts this, but once again, Alberth is unable to wake up due to this. Alberth has traveled into deeper realms of sleep than he previously realized were possible. Alberth, your dreaming becomes more vivid and stable during your coma. During these weeks of travel, moving forward, never before have the walls of your dreams been so solid, or the facts of them so real. You begin to sense the shape of something, an internal reality, of which you had been previously ignorant. Before long, you begin to know your way around your dreams. Are you learning the hidden shape of your mind, or is there something external and real that you are more able to perceive in this state? Are you coming closer to reality or further away? Your thoughts are interrupted. One day or night, they've become the same temporarily, by a sleek shadow, emblazoned with 3 red eyes. The eyes see you, and they offer you something. You recognize its offering as pain. Do you take it?
I ask what's in it for me.
There is no response, only the chthonic glare of the 3 emblazoned red eyes. You're not sure what takes its place from an external meaning here, and what is simply your mind entertaining itself.
Well, due to lack of otherwise entertaining things, I will take the pain.
You take the pain and develop a greater understanding of the emptiness within. More rationally, you would realize you have no idea what any of this means, and it seems too metaphorical to be real or concrete in any way, but for the moment, it is your entire reality. The journey continues. Many miles before, about 3/4 of the way, in fact, from Ernhold to the capital, Abulka Shad pulls the party to a stop. He explains that Alberth's breaths are becoming more and more shallow. Fireheart powder has failed to wake him up, and he is close to succumbing to his injuries. He lays Alberth out on the ground and looks at the both of you. He says, "Do you remember when I gave Alberth my blood earlier? It wasn't too long ago. You remember what I told him not to do?"
Not even a little bit.
That's probably
Don't drink
bad.
it.
You rubbed it on your fist and everything. You're not supposed to drink it. But you had asked whether it heals internal injuries. I hate to say that we're at this point, but we are at this point.
What about
So-
a transfusion? Not necessarily a digestion.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
Right?
It's something I heard somewhere. Unfortunately, intravenous syringes have not been invented. And Abel says, well, I'll try and come up with a sweet medical meaning for transfusion that's something that's good and helpful and that won't kill him. But right now, I think this is his best shot. There might be internal bleeding that's messing with stuff. In which case, he's lasted for a really long time, and I don't want him to go through that. We're gonna try it. Any objections to us trying it?
I look at Marigold.
I want to see what happens.
Right on, let's do it.
Abulka Shad tips Alberth's head up so that he can maintain an airway but still be able to drink something while unconscious. It's the same way that he's been helping Alberth like drink food for your whole, or drink water for your whole travels. And he empties that bottle of ichor into Alberth's mouth, who kind of forced by reflex does swallow it and is still able to breathe. And deep within Alberth's mind, Alberth, you know that there's no guarantee that any of this is real. You've come to accept that over the days and weeks now that you have been in this state. In fact, you have no words anymore for the passage of time. You don't know how many cycles have passed or what size those cycles were. But something happens that causes, in your visualized dream world, something happens that causes a waterfall of Stygian liquid to pour down from above and down to below. You remember hearing a myth sometime a long time ago about a golden river that travels between the land of the living and the land of the dead. You can't be sure how real that memory is, or if the memory is real, how real the legend was. You're beginning to lose your grip on what is. However, a choice is placed before you once again. Just like your previous choices, you don't really know that you understand the consequences of this one. But you know that you can either take this waterfall up to its origin or down to its destination. There is the faint sense in the back of your mind that going down is choosing a change that some would call death.
My first thought is of Gunny. And that I haven't done enough in my life to feel like I've made it up. I feel like I have...
You haven't earned death yet?
Yeah, I haven't earned death yet. That's a great way to put it. So I look up, and that's my choice.
Ascending to the source of the waterfall, Alberth takes his first deliberate breath in weeks as he awakes in the mortal world. So much has changed. The first thing that you realize is that the world looks a touch more amber gold than it did earlier. And when you open your eyes looking around, what everyone else sees but you don't, is that the outside of your iris is now rimmed with that same golden glow as Abulka-Ashad's. This is the change that he discussed, the powers gained by drinking the ichor. You're not sure to what extent they will affect your future. However, a great deal has been lost. Something was severed while you were under, something that has caused you to lose, and you don't know whether this is permanent or temporary, to lose your powers of symbiosis. In addition, the power that you reached out to the green world with has been reclaimed. It remains for you only in the land of the sleeping and the dead. Now that you have returned to this world, you no longer have access to the wild boon of mimesis that you had used on that dreamy green place earlier. The powers left to you are adrenaline and ectasis, a dark and unknown combination. But you're alive once again and among friends. As a party, you rest for a day or two and then press on, finally reaching as Mount Deity grows larger and larger, looming against the horizon. You are close enough that it now affects the day-night cycle. If you are since you are like to the east of it, that the sun sets earlier because it is so tall. Just this intimidating peak. The ancient home of dwarven power in this land. You let's see, that's done. You finally reach the capital of the kingdom of Tel Mary. When you approach the city gates, early enough in the day that you are not in the shadow of this mountain, although it feels like in some way everything in this area is constantly a little bit in the shadow of the mountain. There is a grand keep in the distance built a ways up the side of the cliffs. It's an impressive structure, but its beauty and its majesty are entirely dwarfed by the presence of this monolith behind it. It's probably the biggest keep you've ever seen, and it is rendered almost impotent next to this thing. You are approached by a group of city guards. They're wearing the simple simple garb and like the sigils that declare them part of the city watch. And one with a halberd, one with a long sword. Neither of them drawn. They just they're very prominent weapons. They both approach you, and the one with the halberd has an armored hand out, like signifying that you should stop. He approaches your group and kind of looks you up and down and says, "What's your business in the capital?"
Was he talking to anybody specifically, or?
Nope, just to your group. Actually, he's probably talking to Abulka Ashad, because it just always looks like he's in charge. But Abulka Ashad is very much not taking the lead, kind of looking around if anyone else will.
Is Marigold like our token charisma person in the party?
The face?
Yeah.
Marigold
he's like,
and Alberth, yeah.
Oh, I step back. Not my deal.
Eh?
Is there... I guess, do we still have a great need for secrecy right now?
I would say probably not, right? Because this is like the place we're trying to get to.
This is home base, yeah.
Yeah, we're meeting back up with our team of mages to complete our secret mission and get our money.
We're looking for Lady Kama. We seek an audience with her.
Right. The left hand of the queen. I think she was in a caravan, got here a couple days ago. I'll ask. And then send someone back, and sends the like longsword guy back. When that guy comes back, he is traveling with a third man in full armor. But instead of being dressed in the garish orange of the city guard, he is dressed in all blue. And emblazoned across his like plate armor chest plate is the sigil or the crest of Archduke Visica. That would mean he belongs to Visica's guard, or the guard of the right hand of the king. And he approaches you and looks around and says, "Is one of you Keith?" You're traveling with an angel, so I'm assuming one of you is sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the group I've been waiting for. Will you come with me, please? The queen would like a... Yeah, so you guys travel with him. Yeah, he leads you through the enormous flagstone walkways of this grand city. This is... You've all been to many cities in the past, and a great many of them started as very humble towns and settlements with buildings very close together, and so the demand for roads increased without the ability to increase the actual quantity of roads. So what ends up happening is alleyways break out between buildings and multi-tiered structures get set up. Whoever designed this city knew that it was going to be an absurdly large city, because there are highways of space between many of the major buildings, and there are people traveling not just like 2 lanes among them. There are currents and eddies among this traffic as people go from place to place. This is the most populous location any of you have been to. It's likely that some of you have been here before. Alberth and Keith, we haven't gone too deep into your kind of geographical backstory, but if you were here, it's likely that you were born in the kingdom of Telmeri, and it's not uncommon to visit the capital, even for the peasantry, who do have the right of travel in this kingdom. And, of course, it is not unheard of for noble houses like the clan of McArlen to make regular trips to major cities and trade hubs like this. So it's very likely that any of you have already been here one or many times. But the man with Archduke Visicus crest leads you up to Keep Montel, the towering castle of the Crown of Tel Mary, on the side of Mount Deity. On the way, you pass several landmarks that you recognize. The Red Temple is the house of Crimson Caster power here. That's the power of the Maw and of blood mages and seekers of the chalice and flagellants that we had talked about before. It is simultaneously a sacred and profane place, as many people consider blood magic kind of dark or forbidden or occultic. But it's also a place of great healing, blood mages being skilled healers. There is the Highfall Market Square, and of course the Grand Chirurgeon Guildhouse, for which you were originally traveling here to get Alberth the help that he needed, although Alberth has recovered, not just come back quickly, but seems to be healing at a greatly increased rate.
Just for being in the city?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Because he drank some ichor and was, like, mutated on a cellular level. Yeah, that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Toss a coin to your Alberth.
Oh, yeah, mutating. Just fantasy mutations is a very Witcher thing. But yeah, you guys are brought before the queen. Technically the king and the queen, because they both have thrones there, and they are both sitting there receiving constituents and visitors and all of that. You wait in line through a handful of high-ranking Merchants Guild members. We had talked about the Merchants Guild who just come to declare their wares and give gifts and offerings to the king and the queen. Visitors from other locations. One of them you recognize actually as, or Marigold recognizes as one of his siblings, who, when brought before the king and the queen, make a request to that their brother has scarpered to this land, and a request to issue out like an edict to send this runaway son back to them. They say that not only has he run away, but he has, but his being gone has inspired two of his siblings to run away, including my dearest brother Korik. Apparently, Korik is just not going back because Marigold has set a precedent for it. Marigold, do you have a really grand soap opera confrontation, or do you just pull your hood tighter and make sure that you're not recognized?
Send it. Send it.
100%.
What do you say?
So what exactly is he saying? He's trying to get me and now my other brother to go home? Is that what he's doing? He's like the new messenger sent out to try to collect us? Did I understand right?
Yes, yeah. So they're it's actually your sister is trying to get an edict sent out that to basically she's trying to put a bounty on your head so that you'll be returned to your family.
And what's her name again?
Your sister or the queen to whom she's petitioning?
My sister. Isn't the queen the one we just saved?
Yeah. And
Okay.
and Kama's caravan apparently got in a couple days ago, so she's just back on the throne. She's just here.
I'm going to storm up and say, we saved the queen and yet you demand she place a bounty on me? What gives?
The king, who has been slouching deeper and deeper into his throne this whole time, he's a very thin man. He actually looks really athletic and has one of those like really like not trimmed down like my beard where it like still conforms to the face. Like it comes out, but it's got very clean lines on it. Just the thinnest king you've ever seen, because it's just really easy to get fat in that position. You're literally required to sit through like 8 hours of these meetings a day, and there's just infinite food because you're so wealthy. But he's just been like looking more and more bored through all of this. But when you step out, like, we saved the queen's life, and you want to you want to have me deported? He perks up like, oh, and your sister, it's not Aelwa. Aelwa was the witch. She's also from Venel. That's why I'm getting it confused. Galara. There it is. Your sister Galara says, Marigold, you did what? And the queen like looks over your sister and she's on like an elevated platform with a big stone throne, but she looks down at you and says, "Oh, you're Marigold. So you're both Marigold McCarlin, son of the distant like Chief Duke or Chief McCarlin. You're also the same one that saved me. That Kama had written a note about that you're supposed to get some kind of. Pardon? Say again."
I just felt like I should do the same accent that my sister's doing. That's right, I am.
Yeah.
You flawlessly switch back into your home accent that you had unlearned after so many travels in these southern nations. And your sister looks like she's about to say something, and the queen's like, "Nope, sorry. Not hearing petitions from you. He's fine to stay here as long as he wants. Thank you." And her guards like step forward and she's like, "What? He's the rightful heir to House." She just gets fully dragged off. No secondary questions asked. And the queen like waves the next people back like, no, they're next. And you guys are like paraded to the front of the group. She says, "Very good. And you are that would make you Keith Marigold, and there was a third one. He was dead, I thought. Albert." "Yes, that's
Close
you.
enough.
Congratulations
Yes,
on being alive. Lovely, darling.
Thank you.
Now,
I worked really hard on it.
Someone get Pater Ullman. Darling, get Pater." And her right hand like rushes off to and brings back Pater Ullman, who, looking surprised at all of you, bows deeply, says, "Welcome back. I'm sorry you couldn't arrive to better news." Yeah, and at all of your confused looks, he glances at the queen. She says, "No, I haven't told them." Pater Ullman furrows his brow. He says, "I ought to explain then. It seems the treachery of whoever was sent to kill the queen goes far deeper than we had expected. It found its way even within our very city gates. After the rest of the party, that is, myself, Rez Kalin, Vizier Kama, and your two caster friends, Elway and Yasika. After we all came into town, the queen in tow, to find a hibernation druid to bring her out of her state, we sent the two casters away, informing them that they would receive their rewards after the queen was awoken. But before we arrived at the castle's steps, we were attacked. Rez Kalin and Vizier Kama stayed back to fight the attackers, but I was left simply dragging the queen along the flagstone. And the queen gives him like a sidelong look, like this is kind of on the border of propriety, talking about like dragging her in a coffin across the flagstones, but allows him to finish. and he says, I saw Vizier Kama take a knife to the chest, and I don't know what happened to Rez Kalen, but neither of their bodies have been found. I was able to find some guards to help me bring the queen back to her chambers, and as you can see, she's recovered, but I'm afraid the Vizier and Rez Kalen, they're gone. The queen gives a solemn, silent moment and looks at you like she's waiting, like if there's anything that you want to say in response to that before she moves on.
Marigold, who believes he knows the shape of stories, is thinking that they've gone into a spin-off campaign.
They're on a side quest. Right on.
That's fantastic. I should have been bringing up the knows the shape of stories thing more often. That's a great character note, and once again, inspiration. Yeah. Next. Yeah, but unless you guys have anything to say or ask about right away, the queen nods.
I will ask.
Oh.
Are there any leads? Does anybody know who did this attack or where they might have gone?
The city guard is combing the city, but it's been a few days. We expect they escaped through the sewers. However, why they would take the bodies with them is unclear. Either way, I'm sure Vizier Kama will be back within a week or two. Peter Ullman looks like... What? He looks strangely at her, but she just doesn't... She just does not elaborate.
Respect,
right.
honestly.
Well, and she starts to move on, but actually Peter Ullman's like, wait, I'm sorry, what? No, maybe I was unclear. She was stabbed in the chest. Stabbed in the chest, and now she's dead. And the queen says, yes, this is your first sort of quest with Vizier Kama. That happens. What do you mean that happens? I don't know how she does it, but I swear she's died multiple times, and she's just back. Peter Ullman furrows his brow. He says, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make this. Is she still your left hand then? And the queen says, well, I suppose I should establish a interim left hand of the queen until then. I'll do that. How about you? And Peter Ullman like, sure, I graciously accept. Yes, thank you. And does a very deep bow. She says, very well. Peter Ullman looks troubled. Like, yeah. But unless you guys ask any clarifying questions, she just moves on. She says, I am sorry your quest has come to such an inauspicious end, with a scattered party and a dead, for now, leader, and surely a dead friend as well, as Rez Kalen traveled with you. None of you talked to Rez Kalen very much at all. Keith had like a 3-minute conversation with him. He never played cards with anybody. He kind of just held a sword and looked threatening. But she moves on. However, I do intend to grant each of you what Kama intended to give you. Fortunately, she took obsessive notes. And she pulls out like a notebook and flips through it a little bit. She pulls out one like the fully detached slip of paper. It says, to Alberth, I give a workshop in the city, is what she said. I'm just going to read this out. She wrote it like from my point of view. A workshop in the city for working on his inventions. To Keith, an adjoining smithy, and an introduction to the king's left hand, Archduke Iravetti. And she gestures over, and the king like, yeah, that's that guy. I pointed to the wrong.
Wait.
That's that guy.
Did Kama plan on him becoming the new left hand? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh no, Iravetti is the king's left hand. Has always.
Okay. I understand.
Yes. So the king and queen each have a left and right hand. The king's right hand was Duke Visica, who died right before the beginning of this and had that whole prophecy about the queen being murdered by the end of the year, and a big old revolution led by a caster beloved of the people, but he's dead now. And his left hand, Iravetti, is the master of wishes and whispers that had actually located all of you and told Kama about your whereabouts. Visica and Iravetti were actually a couple. Let's see. Yes, an introduction to the king's left hand, Archduke Iravetti. If anyone can find you a dwarf to fight, it is the Master of Whispers. Am I reading that right? I'm just reading the note word for word. Is that...
Absolutely, that is 100% correct. The sooner the better. I'd really appreciate that. Also an arena, if that's applicable in the notes anywhere.
She just stares down at you for a long time, mouth like just very slightly again, and she notices it and like closes it, like keep the mouth closed. And she seems to like almost take several approaches to this, and just keeps reading the paper. Says, yes. And to Marigold, you. I can't read the rest of this. I'm sorry. Propriety and. Darling, you're coarse and vulgar. And the king goes, what? And she said, you swear all the time. Take this, darling. And the king says, yeah, okay. And he grabs it and like stands up and he's like, to Alberth, I offer. I already did. Here, read from here. And he goes, oh yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. To Marigold, you drunken sod, lessons in magecraft at the Universalists Academy, or your very own distillery in the capital, or diplomatic immunity or whatever. I still have no idea what you want to do other than mess with the shit that's working perfectly. Okay. That's just, you understand. She wrote that. And the queen takes the note back and says, I assume you had your own special kind of relationship. That's okay. Well, very well. What else? I think that's it. Are those good rewards? Is that what you were offered and promised and all that?
That's great for me, yeah. Thank you.
Right on. Anything else?
Yeah. Does anybody know anything about... Sorry, I wasn't holding down the button. Does anybody know anything about possibly curing, I don't know, like horribly deadly plagues? That'd be really convenient for me right now, actually. Plague? I know a guy who saved the queen, who's dying of the skulking end. If you know anything about that.
Oh, well, it's not really in my royal jurisdiction to just be like, I declared you cured. I could say that if it responds to sovereign sort of political power, well, if that's an effective treatment.
Frankly, I haven't tried.
I could just speak to the Grand Chirurgeons Guild. They're good at stuff.
I think maybe both would be the way to proceed, just to like make sure we cover all our bases.
Excellent. Good point. I declare you cured. Good job. Thank you for bringing me back in a box. And I will speak to the Royal Chirurgeon about it. Good job. Thank you. Please leave. And each of you make me what might be the final roll of this little campaign. Make me an insight check. Because there's a number of faces in the room. There's a number of voices. And might be good to know what's up with all of them. Alberth is the only one who notices that Pater Ullman's concern goes past, that doesn't seem like that should be how that works, or even past like a religious official's like, oh, defying death, that's some witch stuff. You shouldn't do that because religion or whatever. He actually seems disturbed by the fact that Vizier Kama might still be alive. You are not sure what you're supposed to do with this information. Do you confront him later? Do you just say it right now? You're not sure what's safe to say here, what's effective to you don't really know the best approach. Do you say something about it right now? Do you j'accuse him? Or do you try and find him later?
Wait, are we linked right now? Or you lost that ability, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Rip.
Dang it. Dang it. I will put both arms like, wow, congrats, guys. And I will say, we need to talk about that guy. Except probably not motion that much.
Like specifically to us or to...
Yeah, I'll bring you guys, you two in close and say, we need to talk about Peter Ullman. I think there's more going on here than we can see.
Yes, I do thank you for saving me. The private conversations, they are kind of happening right in the middle. I can't really hear you, but there are other petitioners, so if you could... Good.
We are on our way up. Thank you so much, Queen. Thank you.
She nods very graciously, and you hear some minor landlord, literally that's what it's called because he owns land, talking about the nature of serfdom or something, waxing philosophical, as she then tries to get him to get to the point behind you. But yeah, you guys get out to the steps away from the grand hall. There are no prying ears here, at least none that you could see. Do you have this discussion here? Right on. What do you say to them?
Cousins thing real quick just to make sure no one's going to overhear.
Nice. Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's a huge area. There's no one nearby.
Okay. I noticed Peter Ullman seemed more upset at the fact that Vizier Kama might be alive than that she, passed on. That makes me think he might have had something to do with trying to kill her and res Caitlin. I think we should lie low, but we should all stick together and kind of try and figure out what's going on. I don't think this is the end of our story.
Hey. What happens next? Do they discover Peter Ullman's... Did they discover treachery on behalf of Peter Ullman? Find out in the next installation of the Nine Worlds! I actually wasn't anticipating ending on a cliffhanger. I thought either this mystery would resolve or you wouldn't realize that there was a mystery. But an excellent note to end on. To be honest, I was expecting our second campaign in this world to actually have different characters, with maybe like one of you plays like a slightly older version of your character, or like you meet a character, or like guns are now common because Alberth invented them, or that kind of thing.
Or dwarves are actually extinct now.
Cruelty, Miles.
I love it.
Yeah, we'll work out the details behind the scenes, but tune in next week for the first episode of our next campaign, which is not going to take place in this world. It's going to be about getting shrunken down to 4 inches tall and living in a world that's too big for you, like Chibi Robo or Honey I Shrunk the Kids. Why was Chibi Robo my first example of like fiction about being shrunk down? I don't know. Toy Story. It'll be good. It'll be fun. Thanks for coming, chat. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in for the whole first campaign of the fiction game. I've been your host, Jack Parkinson. Give a healthy round of applause to Alberth, as played by Hayden. Woo! Marigold as played by
Oh,
Sam.
Good
Let's
job,
see
Sam.
it.
Woo!
Yeah.
Keith as played by Miles. Pump it
Hunt
up.
them dwarves. Yeah.
Yeah, and overall, just thanks for sticking with it through technical difficulties and filler words, all included. You guys have anything
Thank you to our
say?
sponsors, MeUndies, Squarespace.
Oh man, and remember, no one can cast compel indiscretion on your internet history with NordVPN. NordVPN is the psychic ward of software. That's probably enough jokes. Honestly, I'm just vamping out the time because all the recordings get like the last like 30, 60 seconds, minutes cut off. We're just losing a bunch of time. Yeah. Thanks for coming. We love you. Goodbye.